Hello and welcome to another episode of my podcast, Bilal's Bits and Bites. Now, today I want to talk about, and by the way, I have my son Talha here. We have been discussing the Olympics, right? But not from a sports perspective. We've been discussing Olympics from a business perspective and also some of the controversies that are going on. And that's what I want to discuss today with you and clarify some of the things that are going on there and give you my perspective. Now, Tala had some questions around that, and I'm going to be answering many of those questions. So, yeah, thanks for joining me.
Cool,
And
nice to be here. So yeah, I mean, jumping into it, right? The how, let's start off right at the top, right? Outside of the cultural value of the Olympics, from a business point of view, from an economic point of view, I want to know how viable it actually is, right? Because I mean, okay, it's the same not just for the Olympics, but for the FIFA World Cups when they come around, the host companies always advertise it as
host
being
countries, you mean, not companies.
host countries. Sorry, they always advertise it as being it's going to bring this huge economic boost. It's going to increase tourism. Local industries are gonna benefit from it. But then on the other hand, you look at the costs of setting up, and so when you compare those two things, when you put them on the scale, which one outweighs which, right? And at the end of the day, economically, is it actually viable?
So I think let's talk about two things, right? One is all this controversies around what's going on in Paris. The first one is that Last Supper thing that they did, which
Right,
was
with the opening ceremony.
with the opening ceremony, which was a disaster. Look, it's absolutely disgraceful to do something like that, to make a mockery of someone's religion. I remember, and that's how I've been brought up. I remember the one time we were going in the car. I was a kid, and I was a rotter, right? I was a naughty kid, and we passed another religion's place of worship, and I made a joke about it to my brothers, and we giggled. My father stopped the car, your grandfather, and he turned around and he looked at me. You know those eagle eyes of his, that raised brow and that pointy Vulcan eyebrow of his, and he said, "We don't joke about things like that. And we don't make a mockery of other people's religion." I said, "But Dad, we were just joking." As he said, "No. Just like you don't like somebody joking about your religion, don't make a mockery and joke about other people's religion." So we've been brought up like that, right? We've
Yeah.
had.
I mean, you did the same thing to us also, so
Did I?
yeah, I see where you get it from now.
Yeah, I mean, look, respect is, it begets respect, right? Respect begets respect. You respect somebody, they'll respect you. Today, there's too much of this. It's very fashionable that to make mockery of other people's religions just to take the moral high ground and say, well, I'm better than everyone else. That's not what my dad taught me. My dad taught me something in Urdu, and you guys should learn Urdu. He said, दूसरे दू अपने को मत छोड़ दूसरे को मत छेड़, which means don't leave your own set of beliefs, hold on fast to it, but don't interfere with other people's beliefs, don't make a mockery of others. So that's how I've been brought up. And now these kind of things that the West does, they just make mockery of people, of religions. And what's it all for? It's just attention seeking. It means you are so desperate to draw people's attention that you don't you can't come up with anything creative, so you stoop to the toilet, in a manner of speaking.
Yeah, and it's a shame that that was done in the Olympics because I mean, when you look at the Olympics, it's this global event, and uh, generally the host country uses that opportunity of being the host to showcase what their country is all about, to expose their country and their heritage and their culture to a global audience that's going to be watching. So, I mean, you look at the Beijing Olympics, their opening ceremony was all about Chinese culture. They brought in Chinese performers, they had these huge stages with choreographed performances to show the world what China was all about. And so France had the same opportunity being the host, but they opted to go this route instead.
You know, that's well put because it's a huge, huge disgrace, a national disgrace because, as you said, it's an opportunity to show your culture, what you're bringing to the world. And so the question to France is this what you're bringing to the world?
Is this what France is this what France all about?
Is this what you've been reduced to?
Mm.
And in a manner of speaking, I don't want to get into that, but that is what they've been reduced to. Then there's the other controversy about that we were speaking about the female boxing.
Mm.
What was that? What was her name? The boxer.
It was the Algerian boxer. Her name was Iman Khalif.
Iman Khalif. Now, all sorts of accusations about her being a male, but the truth is she's not even transgender. She's a born girl, female. That's just a bit manly in her ways, and she's got high testosterone levels. But you know what? That exposes the underlying hypocrisy that it's okay for a transgender person to participate in women's sports, but not for a born female who just happens to be a little masculine in her way. So one is an actual man, and one is a born female that is manly, but it didn't suit some people, so it became an issue.
Yeah, and it's really unfair for her because it really, I mean, she obviously worked hard to be there, and it was a massive rain on her parade. And it's not like, I mean, typically, right, when there's this issue of men taking part in women's sports, it's because they have a massive advantage, right? I mean, biologically speaking, men are stronger and tougher than women, right? So the difference with Iman is that she didn't have that kind of an advantage, right? In fact, in the previous Olympics, I think it was the 2021 Olympics, she lost. She didn't even, I think she made it to the quarterfinals and then she was knocked out, right? And there was no controversies then. It was completely hush. Now, because she won, which is something I think she deserved, she's worked a long time for.
It's just a lot of hypocrisy, and you can see the double standards, and it's a disgrace. So that's, I mean, among other things, there were just so many controversial things. It's an absolute disaster. But let's get to the economic side of it, right? Is the Olympics good for the cities? Is it good for the economies? The simple answer is no. There is absolutely no benefit for any city to hold these Olympic Games, right? There is the promise of the state, what's the word I'm looking for? The status that goes with, hey, our city is holding the Olympics, and then there's the opportunity to show off your culture to the world, and then there's the promise of an influx of tourism through the participants, the supporting crews, and tourists that are coming in. But has that all proven to be true? No, it hasn't. None of it is proven to be true, because on one hand, if you really want to show your culture, there's other ways of doing it. There's much cheaper ways of doing it. The second thing, as far as the status goes, yeah, maybe there's that. I'll give them that. There is a bit of status that my city is holding the Olympics, but that's just a veneer. That's just, gold plating a turd. That's all you're doing. There's nothing more to it that the Olympics can offer. So that's a small win compared to the losses. And as far as the economic thing goes, it's a disaster. I was watching one of the news media, and they were interviewing business people in Paris. To give you an example, Paris is a wealthy city. France is a wealthy country. So the restaurant here said that since the Olympic season kicked in, my business has dropped by half. Why? Because his customers are locals. And when the Olympics moves in, guess what the locals do? They move out.
Yeah.
I mean, we did that, right? 2010 World Cup in Johannesburg, the opening ceremonies, we headed for the mountains. We literally, we went to the Drakensberg.
I mean, the traffic in Joburg is bad enough as it is.
Yeah.
But during a massive event like that, it was crazy.
traffic, congestion, crime, everything goes up. That's why they spend like over $1 billion on security. So the locals move out and the tourists move in, and not in droves, because a lot of tourists opt out of Paris, strangely enough, right? They don't want to be there in the crowds and the congestion and the crime also. So they go into the countryside. And that's what happens in pretty much every Olympic. So economically, it's a disaster. It's a disaster. And there's another thing about the Olympics. It's this. The Olympics, 100% of the time, goes above budget, way above budget, right? It's scary, those kind of numbers. And what happens is that the cities where the events happen, where the Olympics happen, they end up suffering from this thing called Olympic hangover. It's like they have to clean up the mess, the social, economic, the physical mess that happened during the Olympics, and it takes years and years to recover. One particularly bad situation was in Rio, in the Rio Olympics. Just to create the whole Olympic village, thousands of people were forcibly moved out of their homes. Can you believe that? They were evicted from their homes so that this Olympic village can be set up. And after the village was set up and everything, I think it was just
for a couple of weeks.
For a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And so they built these this village with skyscrapers, apartments and things. After the Olympics were over, there's no takers now. The poor people that were living there were not allowed to come back. They thought they'd sell those apartments to wealthy people. Up till today, nobody is buying. There's no money to maintain those, and the city is just sitting with the headache of that. And then there's also the infrastructure. See, the IOC, the IOC, the International Olympics Committee, is like this very demanding guest. They say, well, I'm going to come to your house, but I need your table to be like this, your dining room to be like that, your pool to be like that, your house to be repainted and rebuilt. And then once they come and have their 1 hour meal with you and they left, then you're sitting with the debt. Every single Olympic city ended up going way over budget and ended up in debt. And that's the problem. So to answer your question, the Olympics is a disaster, an economic disaster, and a social economic disaster for the cities that host it.
Yeah, I mean, stadiums cost millions, if not billions of dollars to construct. And most of the cities where the Olympics happens, those stadiums remain like, once the Olympics is over, they just fade into obscurity. And, you got a few small events, a few small matches here and there, but for the most part, they don't really... in our own very backyard, right? In 2010, the FIFA World Cup came to South Africa, and it was a fun time. Us as South Africans, we really enjoyed our time in the international spotlight. But 2011 came, the World Cup ended, and we still got stadiums that were constructed, a few stadiums that were constructed from the ground up just for the World Cup, like Moses Mabhida Stadium here in South Africa.
It's falling into disrepair.
It's an incredibly expensive stadium too, but since then it's a few small local sports matches that could have been hosted in just about any stadium, but that's it.
Yeah, this is 10 out of 10 cases the same thing happens. The situation got quite serious in Greece, China. What was that bird's nest stadium that they built falling into disrepair? The Olympic canals they built for the boat races and things, no water in there, they dry. And the Greek government is saying, well, there's an irony, right? Because Olympics started in Greece. They're saying, well, there's all these facilities, we don't even have money to maintain those facilities. So they're just falling into disrepair. They become a burden to them.
Yeah, and the second irony in that is that Greece is, as far as Europe goes, it's not a very wealthy country. The economy isn't in the best of shapes. But when you tell them that, or when you say that they're going to be hosting the Olympics, there's that promise of a big economic boost.
Yeah.
Local industries are going to thrive. Tourism is going to get massive exposure because of the Olympics event, and after the Olympics, it's not going to taper off. It's just going to keep going up because now everyone is aware. But that doesn't, from what you're saying, that doesn't really happen. You just spend more money than you ever hope to make,
It's a
and then you.
false promise. Maybe some industries experience a boom, hotels, some restaurants, there is that. But the overall impact on the economy is that it's a big loss maker. The IOC wants a blank check, so the city has to give them the blank check, and they have to go scurrying around the cities and the governments looking for the money. And typically, they go to international organizations, they borrow money, and they're sitting with debt, massive debt. I mean, these Olympics never stick to budget. Never. They never
Yes.
ever stick to budget. They go way above budget, and guess who pays for that? The taxpayers. So I mean, it's the benefit of a few and the loss of many. And then who wins ultimately is the IOC. They smile all the way to the bank because they've made their money, all of their sponsorships and things like that, and they go back home happy and leave the city in tatters. But this is sad. This is some of the predatory business practices of Western capitalism.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking, right? Um, I mean, the Olympics, right, are not inherently a bad thing. It's a huge cultural event, and it's something that the entire world gets to participate in. But there's just this rot at its core. I don't know, the greed, the extravagance, whatever it is, that leads to these exorbitant budgets, and then obviously going above and beyond those budgets on top of that. I wonder what will be a way of, just trimming it down and bringing it back to its core, making it more viable, and bringing it back to its roots of just the entire world coming together to participate in sports.
Yeah. Before I answer that question, that's a brilliant question, and that's bringing it home, and that surfaces many of the problems, the socio-economic problems that we are facing in the world right now. But let's just go and discuss some of these numbers, right? Beijing 2008, the initial budget was $14 billion, big enough as it is. You know what was the actual spend? 42 billion.
It's almost 3 times more than.
It gets worse. Vancouver. Let's put it like this. Vancouver. It took up till today. They're still paying.
Wait, I mean, I'm still stuck on that 42 billion. I mean, there are countries that small countries that make their GDP for the year is about that much.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
that's just the way it is with the Olympics. It's bloody expensive. Okay, Vancouver had an initial budget of 1.6 billion. I don't know why it was so much cheaper than Beijing, but still they ended up paying 6 billion, spending 6 billion, 1.6 to 6 billion. Imagine a business or a construction project going so much over budget. London, 4.4 billion budget, 15 billion actual spent. They ended up spending. But I think the prize winner in this whole thing is the Sochi 2024 Winter Olympics. Initial budget 12 billion. They ended up spending $50 billion on a budget of 12.
12 billion.
$50 billion. Rio is so many economic problems in Brazil. Brazil is I don't know if it's PC to use the word poor, right? But Brazil is a struggling country. $3 billion budget, $13 billion spent. From 3 billion to 13 billion. Where does that extra money go? I don't know. And the most recent Tokyo, 7.3 billion. Some estimates say it went up to 28 billion. From 7.3 to 28 billion dollar. Imagine how that thing bloated. So what happens here? How does someone budget such a not a small amount, a relatively small amount, and the actual goes that big? Okay, which ties into your question now. It ties into your question. First and foremost, the Olympics need to be seen as a business. If it's seen as an equitable business, see, that's what Western capitalism is lacking, the equitability Is that a word? I don't know. It's not equitable because you've got these giant corporations in the West that are making billions of dollars and with they portray squeaky clean images, but they don't show you downstream what or upstream what was going on. With the kind of exploitation that was going on in Africa, for example, the batteries that go into electric vehicles, some of the I think it's the nickel that's mined in the DRC. And they use child labor, exploitation. They're paying those people a bowl of rice or some food for the day just to work hard and get that. So there's large scale exploitation. There's a debt cycle they get countries into. The poorer the country, the more debt, and then there's a kind uh, of capitalist colonialism that goes on there, and it's all about how can we get rich and stand on the necks of other people and get rich. Look, Brazil could have been a rich country. Africa is a rich continent, but because of the exploitation, Africa is being robbed. So that's what's happening with the Olympics, right? There's a few winners, and I'm not talking about the gold medalists here. I'm talking about the
economic winners.
The economic winners, the guys that are behind the scenes. They are making billions out of this, and they're leaving the debt to someone else. It's a typical example. Let's take an example, right? You and I go to a restaurant. We order the best, most expensive meal they have, and I get up and I walk away and I leave you with the bill. That's the scenario that's going on with the Olympics here. So how do we do it? I think the Olympics needs to be, the IOC needs to be dissolved firstly, and the Olympics needs to be something that is managed by the, I don't know, maybe different countries that are working towards a focus on the sports, and the benefits must go to the countries that are running it. And these costs, man, they need to bring these budgets down. I mean, 7.3 billion. Even the budgeted costs are just too high. So
yeah, I mean, I think one way you can also cut down costs immensely is that the Olympics, right, gives a country to showcase its culture and its heritage, right? So do that. Don't spend months and billions of dollars constructing this facade that you're going to show the world. Work with what you have. I mean, the country probably already has stadiums, which country doesn't. The country has hotels.
Be flexible.
Be flexible. Use current infrastructure that you have, and the added benefit of that is that it can actually, truly help the country economically and can result in an economic boost, because instead of the government coming in and then just building a new Olympic village, you're going to local businesses and local hotels and giving them business. You're putting your athletes and the guests that are coming in the heart of your economic centers,
Exactly.
So the shops there, the restaurants there, they can actually get a bigger boost, and you can spread it out a little bit, so it's not just all in one area, but your entire country gets some exposure.
Yeah, or maybe have different events in different countries. It doesn't all have to be in one country, one city. It can be spread out. But you see, the trouble is where there's a vested interest, there's no interest in creating equitable situation. If I can milk that system, I'm going to continue milking that system. That's how they think. Now, the only way to put an end to this global exploitation is through entrepreneurship that's responsible and is equitable. And what's needed is for our communities in general, and I'm talking about South Africa, I'm talking about Africa. What's needed is for us to come out of that mindset of employees, of being employees in companies, and start becoming entrepreneurs. I always say this, and I'll say it again. Africa needs entrepreneurs. We need entrepreneurs who are going to solve the continent's problems in equitable ways, in ways that everybody benefits. Otherwise, if Africa doesn't do this, if Africa doesn't give rise to entrepreneurs, then others are going to come in from outside and they're going to exploit. And then we're going to be left complaining that why are our resources being exploited. That's some people's nature. They are predators. They need to take. They don't believe in win-win. They believe in only I must win. So if you are interested in entrepreneurship, get in touch with me. I've got a link below this video, and I will. We have a course on digital entrepreneurship that shows you how to tap into the power of the internet to do business. I mean, it's never been easier to do business globally than it is now through digital entrepreneurship. But there's a bit of a learning curve, there's a bit of an uphill climb before you can become successful. I'm talking from experience. It hasn't been easy for us, it's been challenging, but we've seen the light. So follow the link below. And also I'm running a series of workshops around South Africa, entrepreneurial workshops, where I speak to people about entrepreneurship. I introduce them to digital entrepreneurship. We go through the ideation process. We talk about digital marketing, and I encourage people right there on the spot to get started with their own businesses. And I'm excited because now, as of this week, the workshops are kicking off at least in 4 cities. So super excited about that.
Lovely. Yeah, I mean, you can check the IT Varsity website for the list of cities that these workshops are going to be hosted in. And if your city isn't on that list and you'd like this workshop to come to your city, let us know. We'll see how we can work together to set up an event.
I wasn't going to mention that, but way to go, letting the cat out of the bag. Okay, the
sorry,
cat is
my
out of the bag. Invite me to your city. It's again, it's equitable. We're not going to come there like the Olympics and leave you with debts. We're looking for business partners in pretty much every town in South Africa, where we come in. We jointly run this workshop, and we work on a profit share basis with the people running it. And I promise you, you get the lion's share of the profit. Plus, we establish a working relationship going forward. So contact me. We'll talk about that. Thanks a lot for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed this episode.